October 15th, 2019. A young woman scrubbed floors in a diner until 4 a.m., her hands raw and blistered, just to afford a single loaf of bread for her daughter. But when the massive rancher with the scarred face sat down across from her table and slid a plate of food toward her, whispering those words that would change everything, she froze. What could a man like him possibly want from someone who had absolutely nothing left to give? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya Torres pressed the mop against the greasy diner floor, her shoulders burning from 7 straight hours of work. The clock above the kitchen door read 3:47 a.m. Outside, the Texas highway stretched empty and dark, occasionally lit by the passing headlights of long-haul truckers. Her daughter Lily was asleep in the storage room, curled up on Maya's jacket in the corner where the manager pretended not to notice. 7 years old and already learning that home was wherever mom could find work. Table 6 needs wiping, Garrett, the night manager, called from behind the counter. He was counting the register for the 3rd time, his weathered face creased with the kind of exhaustion that came from 20 years of overnight shifts. Maya nodded, wringing out the mop into the yellow bucket. The ammonia smell had stopped bothering her months ago. Everything stopped bothering you when your only focus was making it to the next day. She moved to table 6, spray bottle in hand. A trucker had left behind a half-eaten burger and cold fries. She scraped the food into the trash bin, watching perfectly good meat disappear. Her stomach twisted. When was the last time she'd eaten? Yesterday afternoon, maybe. A customer's leftover toast with grape jelly. The bell above the door chimed. Maya glanced up, surprised. Few people came in this close to closing time. The man who entered had to duck slightly to clear the doorframe. He was enormous, not just tall, but built like he'd spent his life hauling cattle and mending fences with his bare hands. His face was weathered and tan, with a jagged scar running from his left temple down to his jaw. A black Stetson sat low on his head, casting shadows across his eyes. He didn't look at her, didn't look at Garrett, just walked straight to the corner booth, the one Maya had just finished cleaning, and sat down with the careful movements of a man whose body carried old injuries. "The kitchen's about to close," Garrett called out, not unkindly. The man's voice rumbled deep and quiet. "Coffee, whatever food you got left." Garrett glanced at Maya, who was already moving toward the coffee station. She grabbed the pot nearly full from sitting untouched for the past hour, and approached the booth. Up close, the man was even more imposing. His hands were massive, scarred and calloused, resting on the table like they belonged to someone who'd wrestled with the earth itself. But his eyes, when they briefly met hers, weren't harsh. They were tired, deeply, bone-achingly tired. She poured the coffee without speaking. He nodded once. "I'll see what we have," she said, her voice hoarse from disuse. In the kitchen, she found the remains of the evening shift. 3 eggs that hadn't gone bad, half a package of bacon, 2 slices of bread that were still soft enough to toast. Garrett wouldn't miss it. He'd been feeding her scraps for weeks now, pretending the food would just go to waste anyway. She cooked quickly, the way her mother had taught her before everything fell apart. The eggs came out fluffy, the bacon crisp. She arranged it on the plate with care. She couldn't quite explain this. Stranger didn't need her presentation skills, but something about his quiet presence made her want to try. When she brought the plate out, he looked at it for a long moment. "What do I owe you?" he asked. "On the house," Garrett called from the register. "We're closing anyway." The man nodded slowly, picked up his fork, and began to eat with deliberate movements. Not rushed, not savoring, just eating like it was fuel. And nothing more. Maya returned to her mop, working her way across the remaining floor. Her back screamed in protest. The blisters on her palms had burst hours ago. leaving raw patches that stung with every grip of the mop handle. She tried not to think about tomorrow, or the day after. The motel wanted 2 weeks' rent by Friday, or they were out. She had maybe 4 days of work left here before Garrett's boss realized he'd been keeping her on off the books. Then what? Another town? Another diner? The sound of a plate sliding across the table made her look up. The man had pushed his half-eaten breakfast to the far edge of his booth. He was looking directly at her now, those tired eyes somehow seeing more than she wanted to show. "You worked." "A double shift," he said. It wasn't a question. Maya's hand tightened on the mop. "I'm fine. When do you eat last?" She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Her throat had gone tight with the kind of shame that came from being seen, really seen, when you'd spent months trying to be invisible. The man stood slowly, his full height making the diner ceiling seem lower. He picked up the plate, walked to her table, the one by the window where she'd left her water bottle and Lily's coloring book, and set it down. "Eat beside me," he said quietly. Maya stared at the plate. At the egg still steaming, the bacon crisp and perfect. Her stomach cramped with want so fierce it was almost painful. "I can't, you can." He sat down at the table, his large frame somehow fitting into the small booth. "And you will." There was no command in his voice, no pity either. Just a simple statement of fact, delivered by a man who looked like he'd learned long ago that some things weren't up for debate. Maya's legs moved before her mind could catch up. She sat across from him, her hands shaking as she picked up the fork. The first bite of egg tasted like salvation, the second like guilt. By the third, tears were streaming down her face and she couldn't stop them. The man didn't speak. Didn't look away. Just sat there, his coffee cup between his hands, bearing witness to her breaking in the fluorescent lights of a highway diner at 4 a.m. When she'd finished, when her plate was empty and her tears had slowed to silent tracks down her cheeks, he finally spoke. "You got people?" Maya shook her head. "Just my daughter." "Work lined up after this?" Another head shake. The man was quiet for a long moment, his scarred fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten, that deep purple that came before dawn. "I got a ranch," he said finally. 40 miles north of here. Been running it solo since my brother passed. Could use help with the house. Cooking, cleaning, books if you know numbers." He paused. "There's a cabin out back. 2 rooms. Needs some fixing up, but it's solid." Maya's breath caught. I can't. Pays fair. Food included." "You want the work, it's yours." She searched his face for the catch, for the hook she'd learned to spot in men's eyes. But all she saw was that same bone-deep exhaustion and something else, something that looked almost like recognition. Like he was seeing his own ghost in her desperation. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why would you help me?" The man stood, dropping a 20 on the table for Garrett. He settled his Stetson lower on his head and looked down at her with those tired, honest eyes. "Because somebody helped me once. When I had nothing left." He nodded toward the storage room where Lily slept. "And because that little girl deserves better than watching her mama break herself for scraps." He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the frame. "Name's Cole Hendris. My ranch is the Double H, off Route 90. You show up tomorrow morning, the job's yours. You don't, I'll understand." The bell chimed as he left. Through the window, Maya watched him climb into a battered Ford, pick up and drive off into the pre-dawn darkness. Garrett was staring at her from behind the counter, his mouth slightly open. "Did that just happen?" Maya whispered. "Cole Hendris," Garrett said slowly, something like awe in his voice. "I'll be damned, that man hasn't set foot in town in 3 years. You know him?" "Everyone knows him, or knew him, before ... Garrett trailed off, shaking his head. "Used to be the biggest rancher in 3 counties. Then his brother died, and something in him just broke, closed himself off from everyone. Maya looked down at the empty plate, at the $20 bill that was more money than she'd seen in weeks. In the storage room. Lily stirred and called out for her. Maya stood on shaking legs, her mind racing with possibilities and fears in equal measure. A job, a cabin, food. A chance. But what kind of man was Cole Hendris? And what would it cost her to find out? The Ford pickup rumbled down Route 90 as morning light painted the Texas hills gold. Maya gripped the steering wheel of her decade-old Honda, following the directions Garrett had scrawled on a napkin. Lily sat in the passenger seat, her small hands clutching the stuffed rabbit that had been with her since she was 2. "Is it far?" Lily asked, watching fence posts blur past the window. "Not much farther, baby." Maya's stomach churned with doubt. She'd spent the remaining hours of her shift going over every reason this was a terrible idea. Taking a job from a stranger, moving to an isolated ranch 40 miles from town. Trusting a man whose eyes held shadows she couldn't read. But then she'd counted the money in her pocket. $63.12. The motel payment was due in 3 days. Lily needed new shoes. Her toes were pressing against the worn canvas. And Maya was so tired of being hungry. The entrance to the Double H appeared suddenly. 2 tall posts connected by a weathered wooden sign. The painted letters faded but still legible. A cattle guard rattled under her tires as she turned onto the dirt road. The ranch spread before her like something from a different era. The main house was a sprawling single-story structure with a wraparound porch, its white paint peeling but its bones clearly solid. Behind it stood a massive red barn, several equipment sheds, and in the distance, the small cabin Cole had mentioned. Everything looked like it had been built to last 100 years and was only halfway through that promise. Cole emerged from the barn as she pulled up, wiping his hands on a rag. In full daylight, he looked even more formidable, at least 6'5", with shoulders that seemed built for carrying impossible burdens. The scar on his face caught the morning sun. Maya killed the engine, her hands trembling slightly. Lily pressed closer to her side. "You came," Cole said as Maya stepped out. There was something in his voice, not exactly, but maybe relief. "I came," Maya confirmed. "This is my daughter, Lily." Cole's eyes softened imperceptibly as he looked at the small girl peering from behind her mother's leg. He crouched down slowly, making himself smaller, less imposing. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Lily," he said quietly, "you like animals?" Lily nodded, her grip on the stuffed rabbit loosening slightly. "Got a barn cat that just had kittens, 4 of them. You want to see?" Lily looked up at Maya, who managed a small nod. The girl's face lit up as she followed Cole toward the barn. Her earlier fear forgotten. Maya watched them go, her throat tight. When was the last time Lily had been excited about anything? When had her daughter last acted like a child instead of a tiny adult worried about where they'd sleep? Cole showed Lily the kittens, a tumbling pile of orange and white fur in a nest of hay, then set her up with a safe spot to play while he led Maya on a tour of the property. The main house was larger inside than it appeared, with high ceilings and wide windows that let in floods of natural light. The furniture was sparse but well made, mostly wood and leather that had aged into character. Dust covered everything, not the dust of days but of months, maybe years. "Haven't done much with the place since my brother died," Cole said, his voice flat. Stopped seeing the point. He showed her the kitchen, a huge space with commercial-grade appliances and counters that could feed a dozen ranch hands. The living room with its stone fireplace. 3 bedrooms down the hall, all empty except for furniture covered in white sheets. "You'd handle the house," Cole explained. "Cleaning, cooking, basic maintenance. I'm up before dawn most days, back after dark, Need someone to keep things running, he paused. And to keep the books, ranch finances. Can you work numbers? I can, Maya said. She'd been 2 semesters into an accounting degree before her ex-husband had convinced her to drop out. Before everything had unraveled, Cole nodded, then led her outside to the cabin. It was smaller than the main house, but charming in its simplicity, too. Bedrooms, a bathroom, a combined kitchen and living space. The porch faced east, catching the morning sun. Needs work, Cole admitted. Roof's got a leak in the back bedroom. Plumbing's temperament, but it's structurally sound. Maya stepped inside, her footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Sunlight streamed through windows that needed cleaning. The walls needed paint. The kitchen cabinets hung slightly crooked, but it was a home, a real home. I'll fix the roof this week, Cole continued. Get the plumber out for the bathroom. You need furniture. There's plenty in storage. Take whatever you want from the main house, too. Maya turned to face him, this massive man who was offering her more than she'd dared hope for in years. What's the pay? $800 a week. Plus the cabin, plus food from the ranch. I run cattle, keep chickens, got a vegetable garden that's mostly gone wild. You use what you need. $800 a week. Maya's knees nearly buckled. That was more than she'd made in a month at the diner. And what do you want in return? The question came out harder than she intended, edged with all the suspicion she'd learned to carry. Cole met her eyes steadily. I want someone who'll show up, who'll do the work, who won't steal from me or bring chaos into my life, he paused. And I want you to understand that this is just a job. I'm not looking for anything else. Not company, not conversation unless. It's about work. I keep to myself. You keep to yourself. We're clear on that. The bluntness should have stung, but instead, Maya felt something loosen in her chest. No hidden expectations. No debt beyond the work itself. We're clear, she said. Then, the job's yours. Start Monday. That gives you the weekend to move in, get settled. They walked back to the barn where Lily was giggling as a kitten climbed up her shirt. Maya watched her daughter's face, truly happy for the first time in months, and felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Cole looked uncomfortable with her gratitude. Don't thank me yet. Work's hard. I'm not easy to work for. And this place, he gazed across his land, something dark crossing his face. It's got ghosts. Just so you know what you're walking into. We've all got ghosts, Maya replied quietly. Something shifted in Cole's expression, a crack in the armor he wore. For just a moment, she saw past the scarred face and imposing size to the man underneath. Someone who'd lost something he couldn't get back. Someone who understood exactly what it meant to keep moving forward when everything inside you wanted to stop. Your stuff at that motel? He asked, what little we have. I'll follow you back, help you load up. No sense paying for another night when you got a place here. 2 hours later, Maya's entire life fit into 4 garbage bags and 2 cardboard boxes loaded into her trunk. She followed Cole's pickup back to the ranch, Lily asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from playing with the kitten's Dot as the Double H came back into view. The afternoon sun turning everything amber and gold. Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years at hope. Dangerous, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something better. But as she pulled up to the cabin and saw Cole unloading her boxes with mechanical efficiency, his face carefully blank, she wondered what price that hope would carry. What secrets lay buried in this ranch's soil? What had broken Cole Hendris so completely that he'd withdrawn from the world? And more importantly, what would it take to survive in the shadow of a man who'd built walls so high, even he couldn't see over them? Lily stirred awake, looked out at the cabin bathed in golden light, and smiled. Is this home, Mama? Maya swallowed hard. Yeah, baby, this is home. For now at least. And for now, That would have to be enough. Monday morning arrived with a knock on the cabin door at 5:30 a.m. Maya jerked awake, disoriented in the unfamiliar bedroom. The knock came again, patient but firm. She stumbled to the door in her sleep, clothes pulling a cardigan over her shoulders. Cole stood on the porch, already dressed for work, his face unreadable in the pre-dawn darkness. "Coffee's on in the main house," he said. "I'll be in the south pasture checking fences. Need breakfast ready by 7. Eggs, bacon, biscuits if you can manage them. After that, the office needs sorting 3 years of receipts in boxes. Filing system's a mess." Before Maya could respond, he was already walking away, his boots crunching on gravel. She stood there for a moment, the cold morning air raising goosebumps on her arms. No good morning. No hope you slept well. Just straight to business. She'd wanted boundaries. Apparently, she'd gotten them. The main house kitchen was warm when she entered, the coffee maker already gurgling. Maya poured herself a cup and surveyed her new workplace. The industrial stove had 6 burners. The refrigerator was stocked with enough food to feed an army fresh eggs from the ranch chickens, thick-cut bacon, milk, butter, vegetables she hadn't been able to afford in months. She cooked the way she used to when life was normal, when she'd had a kitchen of her own and time to care about presentation. The biscuits came out golden and flaky, the bacon perfectly crisp. She set everything on the large dining table just as Cole's footsteps sounded on the porch. He ate in silence, standing at the counter, finishing the entire plate in less than 5 minutes. When he was done, he rinsed his dish, surprising her, and headed for the door. "Office is down the hall, second door on the right," he said without turning around. "Any questions about the books, leave them on the desk. I'll answer tonight." Then he was gone again. Maya spent the morning drowning in paper. Cole hadn't been exaggerating. 3 years of receipts crammed into cardboard boxes without any organization. Veterinary bills mixed with feed orders, mixed with equipment repairs, bank statements from 2 different accounts, tax documents that should have been filed away properly. It was chaos. But it was chaos she understood. By noon, she'd created a basic system sorting everything by year, then by category. She found a ledger from before Cole's brother died, the handwriting neat and careful. After that, the entries became sporadic, sometimes months apart. Like Cole had stopped caring about keeping track. Lily appeared in the doorway, holding a peanut butter sandwich. "Can I go see the kittens?" "Stay where I can see you from the window," Maya said. "And don't go near the equipment." She watched her daughter skip toward the barn, marveling at the change already. Lily looked lighter somehow, less burdened. The constant worry had faded from her small face. The afternoon passed in a blur of papers and filing. Maya's back ached from sitting, but it was a different ache than the one from scrubbing floors. This was the ache of purpose, of work that mattered, beyond just surviving. At 6 p.m., Cole returned. Maya had dinner ready: pot roast with potatoes and carrots, using vegetables from the garden she'd discovered behind the house. The tomatoes were overripe, the lettuce had bolted, but there was enough good produce to make a decent meal. Cole stopped in the kitchen doorway, staring at the set table. For a moment, something crossed his face. Pain, memory, she couldn't tell. "You don't have to," he started, then stopped. "I usually eat at the counter." "Okay," Maya said simply, not arguing. He filled his plate and stood at his usual spot. Maya took Lily back to the cabin to eat, giving him the space he clearly needed. That became their rhythm over the next few days. Maya cooked, cleaned, and worked through the mountain of financial records. Cole appeared only for meals, eating quickly before disappearing back to whatever work consumed his days. They exchanged perhaps 20 words daily, all of them functional. But Maya noticed things. She noticed that Cole fixed the cabin's roof on Tuesday morning, starting before dawn so he wouldn't disturb them. She noticed fresh vegetables appearing on the kitchen counter, the one she'd mentioned needing for specific recipes. She noticed that the temperamental plumbing got fixed Wednesday afternoon while she was working in the office. He was keeping his word, taking care of things but doing it silently. Like he was afraid too much interaction might break whatever fragile arrangement they'd built. On Thursday, Maya found something in the office that made her pause. A framed photograph, face down in one of the boxes. She hesitated, knowing she shouldn't look. But curiosity won. The photo showed two men, nearly identical in build and features, standing in front of the barn. Both were smiling genuine, full smiles that reached their eyes. One of them was clearly a younger Cole, before the scar, before whatever had hollowed him out. The other man had his arm around Cole's shoulders, brothers written on the back end. Faded ink, Cole and Marcus Hendrix, Double H Ranch, 2016. Maya stared at Marcus's face. There was warmth there, an openness that Cole had lost somewhere along the way. What had happened? How had Marcus died? And why had it destroyed Cole so completely? She placed the photo back in the box, face down as she'd found it, that evening. As she prepared dinner, she heard raised voices from outside. Maya moved to the window and saw Cole talking to a man she didn't recognize, shorter, stocky, wearing a sheriff's badge. "You can't hide out here forever, Cole," the sheriff was saying. "People are worried about you. People should mind their business." Cole's voice was flat, cold. "It's been 3 years. Marcus wouldn't want, don't." The single word came out sharp as a blade. "Don't tell me what my brother would want. You don't get to do that." The sheriff sighed, clearly having had this conversation before. "The Henderson place is going up for sale. Banks for closing. Thought you might want to know. Not my problem. It borders your land. Could be your problem if the wrong buyer comes in." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then I guess I'll deal with it if that happens." The sheriff studied him for a long moment. "You're not okay, Cole. Anyone can see that. There's no shame in asking for help. I have all the help I need." Cole's eyes flicked briefly toward the main house, toward where Maya stood watching from the window. The sheriff followed his gaze, surprise registering on his face. Then something like understanding. "All right then. You know where to find me if you change your mind." After the sheriff left, Cole stood alone in the yard for several minutes, his massive frame somehow looking smaller, diminished. Maya watched him struggle with something internal, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. Finally he turned and walked not toward the house, but toward the barn. Disappearing into the shadows, Maya finished preparing dinner, but Cole never came in to eat. At 8 p.m., she made him a plate and left it covered on the counter. At 10, when she checked one last time before heading back to the cabin, the plate was gone, rinsed and left in the sink. As she walked Lily back to their cabin under a sky full of stars, Maya realized something that both worried and intrigued her. Cole Hendris was drowning. Quietly, privately, with no one to see. He'd built himself a prison of isolation on this ranch, and he'd locked himself inside. And somehow, without meaning to, Maya and Lily had become the first people in 3 years to step foot inside those walls. The question was, would their presence help him heal, or would whatever ghosts haunted this place pull them all under? In the distance, a coyote howled. Another answered. Maya shivered despite the warm night air and pulled Lily closer. Some instinct told her that the real challenges were only beginning, that the job she'd accepted was far more complicated than cleaning and cooking and filing receipts. She just didn't know how complicated it was. Not yet. The second week brought rain. Not the gentle Texas drizzle, but sheets of water that turned the ranch roads to mud and drummed against the cabin roof like bullets. Maya woke to thunder that shook the windows and Lily crawling into bed beside her, trembling. "It's okay, baby," Maya whispered, holding her close. "Just a storm." But when she looked out the window at 6 a.m., Cole was already out there. She could see his silhouette moving through the downpour toward the south pasture, his rain slicker barely visible through the deluge dot. By the time Maya reached the main house, she was soaked despite her umbrella. She started coffee and breakfast, watching through the window as lightning split the sky. Cole didn't come in at 7. Didn't come in at 8. At 9, Maya made a decision. She wrapped his breakfast in foil, pulled on her rain boots, and headed toward the pasture. She found him waist-deep in a swollen creek, wrestling with a section of barbed wire fence that had collapsed. 3 cows stood on the wrong side of the water, bawling nervously. Cole was trying to secure a post while the current pulled at his legs. "What are you doing?" Maya shouted over the rain. Cole's head snapped up, surprise flickering across his face. "Get back to the house. You're going to get swept away." "I said get back." He yanked at the post, his boots slipping in the mud. "This fence goes. I lose 20 head of cattle." Maya watched him struggle for another moment, then did something that probably qualified as insane. She waded into the creek. The cold water stole her breath. The current was stronger than it looked, pulling at her legs with hungry fingers. She reached Cole just as he hauled the post upright. "Hold this," he growled, not wasting time arguing. "Don't let go." She gripped the post while Cole secured the wire, his hands working with brutal efficiency despite the rain and wind. Twice the current nearly knocked Maya off her feet. Twice Cole's hand shot out to steady her, his grip iron-strong. When the fence was finally secure, they struggled back to shore together. Cole pulled her up the bank, then stood there breathing hard, rain streaming down his scarred face. "That was stupid," he said. "You're welcome." Something that might have been a laugh escaped him. Or maybe just exhaustion. "Come on. You're hypothermic." Back at the main house, Cole grabbed towels from the bathroom while Maya stood dripping on the kitchen floor. Her teeth were chattering so hard she could barely speak. "Strip out of those wet clothes," Cole ordered, tossing her a towel. "There's a robe in the bathroom. I'll get the fire going." Maya changed quickly, her fingers numb and clumsy. When she emerged in an oversized terrycloth robe that must have been Cole's, he'd built a roaring fire in the living room fireplace and was stoking the flames. "Sit," he said, pointing to the armchair closest to the heat. She sat. He draped a blanket over her shoulders, then disappeared into the kitchen. She heard the clatter of pots, water running, the hiss of the stove lighting. He returned with 2 mugs of something that smelled like whiskey and honey. "Drink." The liquid burned going down, but warmth spread through her chest. Cole sat in the chair opposite her, still in his wet clothes, steam rising often in the firelight. They sat in silence for several minutes, the storm raging outside, the fire crackling between them. "You shouldn't have come out there," Cole said. "Finally, you shouldn't have been out there alone." "I've been alone for 3 years. I manage." "Do you?" The words escaped before Maya could stop them. "Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a man who's one accident away from nobody finding you for days." Cole's jaw tightened. "That's not your concern. Maybe not. But I'm here now. You hired me to help run this place, and I can't do that if you kill yourself trying to do everything solo. I didn't hire you to work the ranch. I hired you for the house. The ranch is falling apart." Maya's voice was steady now, the warmth returning to her limbs along with her conviction. "I've seen the books, the maintenance logs. You're running a 2-man operation by yourself, and it's breaking you." Cole stood abruptly, his sighs filling the room. For a moment, Maya thought he might ask her to leave to pack up and get out. Instead, he walked to the window, staring out at the rain. "My brother and I built this place together," he said quietly. "Every fence post, every structure. We had plans to expand, to bring on more hands, to turn it into something that would last generations." His hand pressed against the window frame. Then Marcus took a fall checking the window in the north field, broke his neck. Dead before I even found him. Maya's breath caught. Cole, 3 years I've been trying to keep this place running the way we planned. Like if I just work hard enough, push hard enough, maybe I can do the job of 2 men. Maybe I can prove that his death didn't break everything we built. His voice cracked slightly. But you're right, I'm failing. The ranch is dying, and I'm dying with it. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and painful. Maya stood slowly, crossing to where Cole stood. Even with her so close, he didn't look at her, just kept his eyes fixed on the storm. What if you stopped trying to? Do it alone? She asked softly. I told you, I can't afford more hands. What if you let me help? Really help, not just with the house, but with the ranch work. I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma before my parents lost it. I know cattle, I know horses, I know manual labor. Let me take some of the load. Cole finally turned to look at her, disbelief written across his face. You've got Lily to look after. You've already got a full-time job. Lily can help too. She's 7, not 3. Kids used to grow up on ranches doing chores. It's good for her. Better than sitting in that cabin watching TV. Maya held his gaze. We're here anyway. We might as well be useful. Why would you do that? It's not what I'm paying you for. Because, Maya paused, searching for the truth beneath her words. Because this place saved us. You saved us. And maybe we can return the favor. Cole studied her for a long moment, something shifting behind his eyes. The walls he'd built so carefully were cracking, and he seemed both terrified and relieved by it. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How to have people here, how to let anyone in. Then we'll figure it out together. No expectations beyond the work, just less alone. Outside, the storm began to ease. The rain softened from a roar to a steady patter. Light broke through the clouds, painting everything silver. Cole nodded slowly. Okay, we try it. But if it doesn't work, then we reassess. No hard feelings. He extended his hand. Maya took it, his calloused palm warm against hers. For the first time since they'd met, something like a smile ghosted across his scarred face. You're insane, you know that? He said. I waded into a flooded creek to help a giant stranger fix a fence in a thunderstorm. I'm aware. This time Cole definitely laughed short and rusty, like something that hadn't been used in years. But it was real. As Maya walked back to the cabin to check on Lily, the sun broke fully through the clouds, turning the wet ranch into a landscape of diamonds. Everything sparkled with possibility. She didn't know if this arrangement would work. Didn't know if Cole could truly let someone help him carry his grief. Didn't know if she was strong enough to stand beside a man who'd been broken so thoroughly. But standing in that moment, with warmth finally returning to her bones and the storm clearing overhead, Maya felt something dangerous blooming in her. Chest. Not just hope this time. Purpose. The sense that maybe, just maybe, saving the Double H Ranch meant saving all of them. Cole from his isolation, Lily from instability, and herself from the belief that she'd never be more than a woman running from her failures. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Tomorrow they'd find out if 3 broken people could somehow build something whole. But today, for the first time since arriving at the ranch, Maya allowed herself to believe they might actually succeed. The morning after the storm, Maya woke to find a pair of worn work boots outside her cabin door. Men's size 13, far too large for her, but stuffed with newspaper to make them fit. A note was tucked inside the right boot in Cole's angular handwriting. If you're serious about ranch work, you'll need these. South Barn, 6 a.m., Maya smiled. Despite herself, no sentimentality, no flowery language. Just practical problem-solving from a man who'd spent 3 years forgetting how to interact with other humans. She was at the South Barn at 5:55 a.m., Lily trailing behind her in overalls. Maya had found in a thrift store box in the main house attic. Cole was already there, organizing tools with methodical precision. "Morning," he said, then looked at Lily. "You know how to feed chickens?" Lily's eyes went wide. "No, sir." Something softened in Cole's expression at the "sir." "Come on then." First lesson. Maya watched as this massive, scarred man led her small daughter to the chicken coop, his voice low and patient as he explained how to scatter feed, how to check for eggs, how to move slowly so as not to spook the hens. Lily listened with complete concentration, nodding seriously at each instruction. It was the most words Maya had heard Cole speak at one time. When Lily was settled with her task, Cole turned to Maya. "You said you knew cattle. Let's see if that's true." He led her to the north pasture where 15 head of cattle grazed. One cow stood apart from the others, favoring her left front leg. "What do you see?" Cole asked. Maya studied the animal. "She's limping. Could be a stone in her hoof. Could be an abscess. Need to check her." Cole nodded, something like approval in his eyes. "How do we get her separated from the herd?" "Slowly. Use the natural terrain to funnel her toward that corner there, then block her exit routes. No loud noises, just patience and positioning." "Show me." It took 20 minutes, but Maya managed to guide the cow into the corner. Cole moved in with practiced ease, securing her head while Maya examined the hoof. Sure enough, a sharp stone was wedged deep in the soft tissue. "Hand me those pliers," Maya said. She worked carefully, extracting the stone and cleaning the wound. The cow bellowed once, but settled as Maya murmured to her in Spanish, the language her father had used with animals on their Oklahoma farm. When they released the cow, she trotted back to the herd without limping. Cole was staring at Maya with an unreadable expression. "Where'd you learn that?" "My father raised cattle before the bank took the farm. I was 12 when we lost it." Maya wiped her hands on her jeans. "Learned early that animals respond to calm and confidence. They can smell fear and hesitation." "Like people," Cole said quietly. "Like people." They worked in comfortable silence. For the next hour, checking fences the storm had damaged, clearing debris from water troughs, examining the other cattle for injuries. Cole gave instructions without condescension, listened when Maya offered suggestions, worked alongside her like they'd been partners for years instead of days. By the time they returned for breakfast, both were covered in mud and sweat. Lily was proudly carrying a basket of eggs, regaling them with stories about the mean red hen who'd pecked at her hand. "That's Henrietta," Cole said. "She's territorial. You stand your ground with her. Don't let her push you around." "Like the cows," Lily said wisely. Cole's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Exactly like the cows." The days that followed established a new pattern. Mornings were for ranch work, the three of them tackling repairs, animal care, and maintenance that had piled up during Cole's years of solo operation. Lily fed chickens, collected eggs, helped water the garden that Maya had begun reviving. Maya worked cattle alongside Cole, her farm knowledge coming back like muscle memory. Afternoons, while Lily did schoolwork at the kitchen table, Maya had enrolled her in an online program. Maya returned to the office. The financial chaos was slowly transforming into order. She discovered that Double H was actually profitable. But barely. Cole had been neglecting opportunities, refusing contracts, isolating himself so completely that potential buyers stopped calling. One afternoon, she found invoices from a meat distributor in Austin. They'd been trying to buy Double H beef for their high-end restaurants, but had given up after. Cole ignored their calls for 6 months. That evening at dinner, which Cole had begun taking at the table instead of standing at the counter, Maya brought it up. "Mitchell's Premium Meats contacted you 8 times last year," she said. "They wanted to buy grass-fed beef at premium rates. Why didn't you respond?" Cole's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Didn't see the point." "The point is they were offering 30% above market rate. That's significant money. Marcus handled the business side. He set down his fork. I didn't want to deal with strangers. Didn't want to explain why I was the only one answering the phone. Maya understood then. Every business call was a reminder that Marcus was gone. Every new contact meant admitting his brother had died. So Cole had simply stopped engaging, letting opportunities slip away rather than face that pain repeatedly. What if I handled the business calls? Maya offered. I could manage the contracts, coordinate sales, deal with distributors. You just focus on the cattle and the land. Cole looked at her for a long moment. That's not what I hired you for. I know, but it's what this ranch needs. And she hesitated, then pushed forward. It's what I'm good at. What I went to school for before everything fell apart. Lily had fallen asleep with her head on the table, exhausted from the day's work. Cole's eyes moved to the child, then back to Maya. You keep taking on more, he said quietly. At some point, you're going to burn out. Or maybe I'm finally doing work that matters. Work that builds something instead of just surviving day to day. Maya met his gaze steadily. Let me do this. Let me help you turn this place into what you and Marcus envisioned. Something shifted in Cole's expression, vulnerability, mixed with gratitude, mixed with fear. Like he was terrified to hope but couldn't quite stop himself. Okay, he said finally. But we adjust your pay. If you're taking on business management, that's a different job. Cole, 1,000 a week, non-negotiable. His voice was firm. And we draw up a proper contract. If you're going to be a partner in running this operation, we do it right. Partner. The word hung between them, weighted with meaning neither was quite ready to examine. Deal, Maya said. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya made calls Cole had been avoiding for years. She reconnected with Mitchell's premium meats, negotiated a contract that would bring in steady revenue. She reached out to a feed supplier who'd given up on the Double H, renegotiated terms that saved them 15%. She organized the tax documents and discovered they were due for a significant refund. Cole had never claimed. The ranch began to breathe again. Not just survive, but thrive. And something else was breathing too, something more fragile and dangerous. Maya caught herself watching Cole as he worked, noting the careful way he moved despite his size, the gentleness in his hands when he doctored an injured calf. She noticed how he'd started talking more, his voice losing that flat, dead quality. How sometimes he'd tell stories about Marcus while they worked, small memories that made him smile before the sadness returned. She noticed how he looked at her too. Quick glances he thought she didn't catch. The way he made sure she had water during hot days. How he'd positioned himself between her and a spooked horse without thinking. Pure protective instinct. They were becoming something more than employer and employee. More than two isolated people sharing space. They were becoming a team. Maybe even something like friends. But Maya had learned the hard way that hope was dangerous. That letting yourself believe in good things was a setup for devastation. Her ex-husband had taught her that lesson thoroughly. So she kept her growing feelings locked away, focusing on the work, on Lily's happiness, on the satisfaction of watching the Double H transform from a dying ranch into a viable operation. She told herself the warmth in her chest when Cole smiled was just gratitude. She told herself the way her pulse quickened when their hands accidentally touched meant nothing. She told herself she wasn't falling for the giant, scarred rancher who'd saved her with a plate of food and an impossible offer. But late at night, alone in the cabin with Lily sleeping soundly in the next room, Maya couldn't lie to herself anymore. She was falling. Fast and hard and terrifyingly real. The question was, what would she do about it? And more importantly, was Cole falling too? Or was she reading kindness as something more? Outside, the Texas stars blazed overhead, offering no answers. Only the endless sky and the sound of cattle settling for the night and the Knowledge that everything was about to get much more complicated. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, while Maya was reconciling feed invoices in the office. An unfamiliar number with a local area code. Double H Ranch, Maya answered professionally. Is this Cole Hendris? A woman's voice, smooth and cultured. This is Maya Torres, business manager for Double H. How can I help you? A pause. Business manager? Since when does Cole have a business manager? Maya's instincts prickled. May I ask who's calling? Victoria Brennan. I was a friend of Cole's and Marcus's. Another pause, heavier this time. Is Cole available? He's working. The North Pasture. Can I take a message? Tell him Victoria called. Tell him I'm in town for the week and I'd like to see him. He has my number. The line went dead before Maya could respond. She stared at the phone, an uncomfortable feeling settling in her stomach. Something about that woman's voice, the familiarity, the presumption, the way she'd said, I was a friend, set off warning bells. When Cole came in for dinner that evening, Maya mentioned the call casually while serving pot roast. Someone named Victoria Brennan called. Said she wants to see you. Cole's fork clattered against his plate. His entire body went rigid, the color draining from his face. What did you tell her? His voice was tight, barely controlled. That you. We're working. She said she'd be in town for the week. Maya studied his reaction. Should I have said something else? Cole stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. If she calls again, tell her I'm not available. Tell her. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. Just tell her no. He walked out, leaving his dinner untouched. Lily looked up from her plate, concerned. Is Mr. Cole okay? I don't know, baby, Maya said softly, watching through the window as Cole disappeared into the barn. She found him an hour later in the tack room, sitting on an overturned bucket with his head in his hands. The barn cats wound around his legs, sensing distress. Want to talk about it? Maya asked from the doorway. No, she should have left, should have respected his privacy. Instead, she stepped inside and leaned against the wall, waiting. Finally, Cole spoke. Victoria was Marcus's fiancée. They were supposed to get married a month after he died. Maya's breath caught. Cole. She blamed me. His voice was hollow. Said if I'd been with him that day, if I hadn't sent him to check that windmill alone, he'd still be alive. She was right. You can't know that. I can know that I chose to fix the tractor instead of going with him. I can know that my brother died alone because I made that choice. Cole's hands clenched into fists. Victoria said things at the funeral, true things, things I'd already been thinking. That I was the one who should have died. That Marcus was the better man, the one worth keeping. Maya crossed to him, crouching down to meet his eyes. She was grieving. People say terrible things when they're in pain. Doesn't make them less true. Cole, listen to me. Marcus's death was an accident, a horrible, tragic accident. But it wasn't your fault. You don't understand. Cole's eyes were haunted. Marcus was supposed to fix that tractor. But he had plans with Victoria that afternoon, so I told him I'd handle it. I convinced him to check the windmill instead, said it would be quick. His voice cracked. I killed him so I could work on a goddamn tractor. The weight of that guilt had been crushing him for 3 years. Maya could see it now, how it had hollowed him out, turned him into a ghost haunting his own ranch. Is that why you've been alone all this time? She asked gently. Why you shut everyone out? I didn't deserve anything else. Didn't deserve companionship or comfort or... He looked at her then, really looked at her. And then you showed up. You and Lily, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt like maybe I could breathe again. Maya's heart stuttered. Cole, but I can't, don't you see? Victoria's right. I should be alone. I don't get to move on when Marcus is dead because of me. Before Maya could respond, footsteps sounded outside the barn. They both turned to see. A woman standing in the doorway, tall, elegant, with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer clothes that looked absurdly out of place on a working ranch. Victoria Brennan. "I thought I'd find you here," she said, her eyes moving between Cole and Maya with sharp assessment. "When you didn't return my call, I decided to drive out. I see you've been busy." Cole stood, his entire demeanor shifting to cold formality. "You shouldn't have come. We need to talk, Cole. It's been 3 years. Don't you think it's time?" "Time for what? More accusations? More reminders that I killed your fiancé?" Victoria flinched. "That's not I was grieving. I said things I didn't mean." "You meant every word." Cole's voice was flat. "And you were right to say them." "I wasn't right. I was cruel." Victoria took a step forward, her expression softening in a way that looked practiced. "I've spent 3 years thinking about that day, about what I said to you, and I need you to know that I forgive you." The words hung in the air, and Maya felt her stomach turn. There was something performative about Victoria's delivery, something that felt more like manipulation than genuine reconciliation. "I don't want your forgiveness," Cole said, "but you need it. Don't you see? We both loved Marcus. We're the only ones who understand what we lost." Victoria's eyes grew bright with tears. "I know you've been suffering. I know you've isolated yourself out here, punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. But I'm here now. We can help each other heal." Maya watched this performance with growing unease. She'd seen this before. Her ex-husband had been a master of emotional manipulation, of making himself the hero of someone else's pain. "How did you know I'd been isolated?" Cole asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Sheriff Rawlings. He's worried about you. We all are." Victoria moved closer, reaching for Cole's hand. "Let me back in. Let me help you. We can remember Marcus together, the right way. Honor his memory." Cole pulled his hand away, but there was hesitation in his movement. Doubt. Maya could see the guilt still eating at him, making him vulnerable to Victoria's calculated compassion. "I'll think about it," Cole said quietly. Victory flashed in Victoria's eyes. "That's all I ask. I'm staying at the Cottonwood Inn. Call me when you're ready to talk." She paused at the barn door, looking back. "It's good to see you're not completely alone anymore. Though I'm sure your employee understands this is a private family matter." The emphasis on employee was subtle but unmistakable. A reminder to Maya of her place. After Victoria left, Cole stood motionless, staring at the ground. "She's manipulating you," Maya said quietly. "She lost the man she loved. So did you. You lost your brother. That doesn't give her the right to weaponize your guilt." Cole's jaw tightened. "You don't know her. You don't know what we went through." "You're right. I don't. But I know what I saw just now, and it wasn't genuine forgiveness. It was control." "Maybe I need to be controlled." Cole's voice was bitter. "Maybe I need someone to hold me accountable for what I did. You need someone who helps you heal, not someone who keeps you trapped in your worst moment." Maya stepped closer, her voice urgent. "Cole, you've been punishing yourself for 3 years. You've turned this ranch into a prison. Don't let her make the walls even higher." For a moment, something flickered in Cole's eyes. Recognition, maybe. Even agreement. But then the shutters came down, and he was closed off again. "I need to be alone," he said. Maya wanted to argue, to shake him, to make him see what Victoria was doing. But she could see the exhaustion in his face, the weight of 3 years of grief settling back onto his shoulders. "Okay," she said softly. "But I'm here if you need to talk." She walked back to the cabin, her mind racing. Victoria Brennan's arrival had shattered the fragile peace they'd built. And Maya had the sinking feeling that things were about to get much worse. Inside the cabin, she found Lily already asleep, the barn cat they'd adopted curled at her feet. Maya sat on the edge of her own bed, staring out at the main house where a single light burned in Cole's window, She'd told herself not to fall for him. Told herself to keep her distance, maintain professional boundaries. But watching Victoria Brennan work her manipulation, seeing Cole vulnerable and hurting, Maya realized something that terrified her. It was too late. She was already all in, and she'd be damned if she let some guilt-wielding ex-fiancé destroy the man who'd saved her life. Victoria became a constant presence over the next 3 days. She appeared at the ranch each afternoon, always perfectly dressed, always with some excuse. She needed to retrieve a box of Marcus's belongings she'd left in storage. She wanted to visit his grave on the property. She hoped to discuss the memorial fund she was establishing in his name. Each time, she managed to pull Cole into long conversations that left him hollowed out and distant. He stopped eating dinner at the table, stopped working alongside Maya. In the mornings, retreated back into the isolation he'd been clawing his way out of. Maya watched it happen with growing fury and helplessness. She tried talking to him, but Cole had rebuilt his walls. Every attempt at conversation was met with one-word answers or silence. On the 4th day, Victoria arrived with papers. "What are those?" Maya asked from the porch where she was shelling peas with Lily. Victoria's smile was sharp. "Business documents. Nothing that concerns you." She swept past into the house, and Maya heard the murmur of voices from the office. An hour later, Victoria emerged looking triumphant. Cole followed her out, his face unreadable. After Victoria left, Maya confronted him. "What did you sign?" "A partnership agreement. Victoria's investing in the ranch. She handled the business side, expand operations." His voice was mechanical. "It's what Marcus would have wanted." Maya's blood ran cold. "Cole, you already have someone handling the business side, me. And the ranch is already expanding. We've increased revenue by 40% in a month. Victoria has connections, capital. She can take this place to the next level. She wants control. Can't you see that? What I see is someone trying to honor my brother's memory. What I see is a chance to build something worthy of the sacrifice Marcus made." Cole's eyes were distant, hollow. "What I see is you overstepping your position." The words hit like a physical blow. Maya stepped back, her hands trembling. "My position? You're an employee, Maya, a good one, but this isn't your ranch. These aren't your decisions to make." Lily had stopped shelling peas, her small face worried. Maya forced herself to breathe, to think past the hurt. "You're right," she said quietly. "It's not my ranch. But it's not Victoria's either. It's yours. And if you sign it over to her piece by piece, you'll lose everything you and Marcus built. She's not trying to honor his memory, she's trying to own it." "That's enough." Cole's voice was hard. "Victoria leaves tomorrow. We'll finalize the partnership next week. That's the end of this discussion." He walked away, leaving Maya standing on the porch with tears burning in her eyes. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The way Victoria maneuvered, the calculated tears, the constant reminders of Marcus. The way she'd isolated Cole from everyone who might challenge her narrative. And suddenly, Maya understood. Victoria didn't want Cole, she wanted the ranch. Marcus had been the heir to the Double H, and when he died, Victoria lost her claim to it. Now she was using Cole's guilt to get what she'd lost. Maya needed proof. Something concrete that would break through Cole's guilt-induced fog. She waited until 2 a.m., then slipped into the main house. The office was dark and quiet. She turned on the desk lamp and began searching through the partnership documents Victoria had left for Cole to review. What she found made her stomach turn. The agreement gave Victoria controlling interest in the Double H. Cole would retain ownership in name only. Every major decision would require Victoria's approval. And buried in the fine print was a clause that would allow Victoria to buy out Cole's remaining share if he failed to meet certain operational benchmarks. Benchmarks that were deliberately impossible to achieve. It was a trap. Give it 2 years, and Cole would lose his ranch entirely. Maya photographed every page with her phone, her hands shaking with rage. Then she kept digging through the files. In a folder marked Henderson Property, she found the connection she needed. The neighboring ranch the sheriff had mentioned, the one going into foreclosure. Victoria's name was on the deed as the purchasing agent. She was buying up surrounding land, building an empire, and the Double H was the crown jewel she needed to complete it. Maya heard footsteps on the porch. She quickly turned off the lamp and moved to the window. Victoria stood in the yard, talking on her phone. At 2 a.m., just a few more days. He's completely under control now. Once he signs tomorrow, we can start phase 2. A pause. The woman? She's nobody. Just some charity case he took pity on. She'd be gone within the month. Victoria laughed. Cold and calculating. By this time next year, the Double H will be mine, and Cole Hendris will be exactly where Marcus should have left him, broken and alone. Maya's hands clenched into fists. She'd heard enough. The next morning, Victoria arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, dressed in a cream suit, carrying the finalized partnership agreement. Cole was waiting in the office, pen in hand. "Before you sign that," Maya said from the doorway, "there's something you need to see." Victoria's smile froze. "This is a private meeting. Cole needs to know what he's really signing." Maya walked in, placing her phone on the desk. "I recorded Victoria last night. On this property, talking about how she's manipulating you." Cole looked between them, confusion clouding his features. "Maya, what are you? Just listen, please." She pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the room. "He's completely under control now. She's nobody. By this time next year, the Double H will be mine, and Cole Hendris will be exactly where Marcus should have left him, broken and alone." The color drained from Cole's face. He looked at Victoria, who'd gone pale beneath her makeup. "That's taken out of context," Victoria said quickly. "I was talking to my business partner about stealing my ranch." Cole's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. "About using my guilt over my brother's death to manipulate me into signing away everything we built." "Cole, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He stood, his full height making the room feel smaller. "You need to leave, now. But the agreement is worthless. Get off my property, Victoria. If you come back, I'll call Sheriff Rawlings and press charges for fraud." Victoria's composure cracked. Her face twisted with rage. "You're making a mistake. This ranch is dying. Marcus would be ashamed of what you've let it become. Without me, you'll lose everything." "Maybe," Cole said. "But at least I'll lose it on my own terms. Not because I let someone weaponize my grief." Victoria grabbed her papers and stormed out, her heels clicking sharply on the hardwood. They heard her car start, tires spraying gravel as she sped away. Silence filled the office. Cole sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. "I'm sorry," Maya said softly. "I know that was hard. You saved me." His voice was muffled. "Again, you keep saving me, and I keep." He looked up, and Maya was shocked to see tears streaming down his scarred face. "I said horrible things to you yesterday. Called you just an employee when you've been so much more than that. When you've brought this place back to life. Brought me back to life." Maya crossed to him, kneeling beside his chair. "Cole, Marcus would have liked you," he said, his voice breaking. "He would have loved how you took charge, how you fought for this place. How you fought for me, even when I was too stupid to see what was happening." He reached out hesitantly, his large hand cupping her face. "I don't know how to do this. How to move forward. How to let go of the guilt and let myself feel something good again." "You don't have to know," Maya whispered. "We figure it out together, one day at a time." "I'm Falling for you, Maya Torres. Have been since you waded into that creek like a crazy person to help me save a fence. A broken laugh escaped him. But I'm a mess. I'm broken and damaged, and I come with more baggage than. Maya stopped him with a kiss. Gentle at first, then deeper as Cole responded, his arms coming around her like she was something precious he was afraid to break. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I'm broken too, Maya said. I've got my own baggage, my own scars. But maybe broken people who help each other heal aren't really broken anymore. Maybe we're just building something new, Cole finished. Something that's ours. A small voice from the doorway made them both jump. Does this mean Mr. Cole is staying for dinner again? Lily stood there, grinning widely. Behind her, the barn cat wound between her legs, purring. Cole laughed a real laugh, full and warm. Yeah, I'm staying for dinner, if your mama will have me. Always, Maya said. 3 months later, the Double H Ranch was thriving. The contracts Maya had negotiated brought steady income. The cattle were healthy. The buildings had been repaired. And Cole Hendris no longer looked like a man haunted by ghosts. He'd started visiting Marcus's grave regularly, but now he brought flowers instead of guilt. He'd joined Maya and Lily for dinner every night, slowly learning how to be part of a family again. He'd even started smiling, really smiling, when Lily regaled him with stories about her online classes or the chicken's daily drama. And late at night, after Lily was asleep, Cole would walk Maya back to the cabin, kiss her goodnight on the porch, and return to the main house, taking things slow, building something solid on a foundation of trust and honesty rather than desperation. Sheriff Rawlings stopped by one afternoon, surprised to find Cole working alongside Maya, both of them laughing about something. He pulled Maya aside later. Don't know what you did, he said quietly, but I haven't seen Cole like this in 3 years. You gave him his life back. Maya watched Cole lift Lily onto his shoulders so she could see into a bird's nest. He gave us ours first. That evening, as they sat on the main house porch watching the sun set over the Double H, Cole took Maya's hand. I've been thinking, he said. This partnership of ours, the business one, it's working pretty well. It is, Maya agreed. What would you think about making it official, not just business? A real partnership. You and me building this place. Together, he paused, nervous despite his size. I'm not talking about marriage, not yet. We're not there yet. But maybe we could be. Someday. Maya squeezed his hand, her heart full. Someday sounds perfect. Lily burst through the door, the barn cat in her arms. Mama, Mr. Cole. The mama cat had more kittens. Come see. As they followed her excited chatter toward the barn, Cole caught Maya's eye and smiled, that real, genuine smile she'd worked so hard to bring back. This was home, Maya realized. Not the cabin or the ranch or the land. Home was Cole's quiet strength, Lily's laughter, the work they built together. She'd come to the Double H Ranch with nothing but desperation and a daughter to feed. A giant scarred rancher had placed food before her and said, "Eat beside me." And in doing so, he'd given her everything, a purpose, a place, a future. And maybe, just maybe, a love that could heal all their broken pieces into something beautiful and whole. The end up next. You've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.